And we're looking forward to presentations today from system leaders. And of course, CAS has repeatedly asked for to learn with and from colleagues. And so we'll have some more of those presentations today, and so looking forward to those. We'll start now with the acknowledgement of the land. I acknowledge that I am on Treaty 7 territory, the traditional territories and oral practices of the Blackfoot Nations, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai. I also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina and the Stoney Nakoda First Nations and the traditional homeland of the Métis and all the peoples who make their home in the Treaty 7 regions of Southern Alberta. I am aware and I honor that some participants are joining us from other treaty areas in Alberta and Canada, and we at CAS commit to restoring and honoring the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. We strongly believe that truth must be acknowledged to move forward to reconciliation. Together, we call upon all our collective communities to build a stronger understanding of all peoples who dwell on this land and call it home. So very much looking forward to, once again, to our guest speakers today. And without those folks, it would be more rhetoric from Brian and I, so we're always welcome to have our system leaders along with us. So we'll hear from Dr. Diane McConnell, Felicia Oakes from Parkland, and then from Horizon, Dr. Wilco Tymonson, and Amber Dara. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll do that introduction in a few minutes. Just looking at this particular slide, it speaks to the variety of learning opportunities that CAS continues to present for its members. When you think about the goal that CAS has established for its leader, it reads that CAS supports building system leader excellence to ensure student success. So this is a great opportunity to continue along that road. And today we will hear stories of practice, as I've mentioned, and look at more workplace wellness resources. So why workplace wellness? An excellent connection back to our presenters from last week as well. So we had Cynthia Glakar from Foothills, Shar Andrew from Calgary, Red Deer Catholic. Brian and I were certainly humbled by their presentations last week. And a great connection back to the Board of Trustees as well. When we talk about leadership and how that impacts entire school systems, certainly the Board of Trustees are an integral part of that and are so connected to wellness work in school authorities. So we will look at a comprehensive and integrated plan today, and that and the connection back to the SLQS, the LQS, and of course the TQS. Our workplace wellness planning is certainly holistic and integrated, so it will connect to all of those standards. So looking at the historical scan, this is a connection that we will have partly for our next session. So what have we done to support workplace wellness? So a list of all of the things that you've done in the past, the wellness dimension, which aspect of wellness did it address? And I would just comment here that we talk in our guide about physical, mental, and social emotional well-being. And of course, that can be extrapolated to whatever works in your school authority. So spiritual is one that is certainly integral to our Catholic school authorities around the province. Financial, there's so many other dimensions that might be a part of this, but those are the three that we have included in our guide. And so that's the ones that are included here. who is affected. So who did it most address? So teachers, staff, students, and of course, ultimately, that is our goal, is to improve students' well-being. And so working through our leadership and teachers and all other staff is an important part of that. And then looking at the results achieved as a result of that. So what kind of data will you use to know that you've achieved the results? Okay, Brian, I wonder if you could jump in now and provide your comments, please.
Thanks, Jim. I don't really have much to add. It's great to see some new people here today from our perspective, as well as people who have signed up for all 3 workshops. We think there's real good value in all 3, as we end up covering most, if not all, of the 5 conditions that are within the guide. We've kind of gone from very early beginning project kinds of strategies, not knowing what we don't know yet, and within 3 years we're hearing maybe we've already put together too many resources. And although our goal was to filter out some of the resources and include some of the resources that we felt would be most beneficial to school authority leaders, there's been a huge conundrum of or a huge palette of resources that we've put together. And so with the addition of our school authority folks helping us out with these presentations and giving some real life examples of what's going on, we hope that the professional learning modules that we put together over the course of the 3 workshops will be very helpful in you picking up your work and your journey towards a workplace wellness plan, no matter where you may be in that journey. So we hope as well some relationships even through virtual will occur, and perhaps even some school authorities working together moving forward on their plans as you see connections among peers. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Brian. And just a reminder to keep a pen and paper handy. Our presenters have a little exercise for you today that they would like to have you complete. The school authority presentations, so excited about this. We always are, and last week's presentations were remarkable, and cast members have always asked, as you know, to learn from and with one another. And our last session was an example of why. Just some great work, and we're really looking forward to Dr. Diane McConnell and Felicia Oakes and their presentation today. There are some framing questions that we have provided, and so looking forward to their presentation today around those focus questions. Diane.
Did we lose her?
Sorry, I was on mute.
Diane.
Diane, that's
I had such an eloquent introduction. So rewind, start again. Anyway, thanks, Jim. It's not such a great start, but it's good to be here. Felicia and I are kind of excited to be able to share with you our story of practice, which started for us in Parkland School Division about 9 years ago. And it started in one of our small schools. A community member, a philanthropist, identified that there was a need in this community with respect to resiliency in our youth. Provided the school with some resources so that they could put into place a Point 2 youth resiliency coordinator, and that happened to be Felicia. And the work that happened in that school was no less than remarkable, so much so that Parkland School Division embraced that concept, and the following year put Felicia into a full-time position as a youth resiliency coordinator for our division. And the focus of that work at the time was youth resiliency, of course, and student well-being. From there, our journey has been evolving. It's a work in progress, and it was remarkable as we have participated and watched the creation and the evolution of this playbook and the implementation guide, how those conditions are really so vital and important in terms of setting the foundation for a strong approach to well-being, because as we unpacked our story, and we're going to share that with you today, I think you'll notice that there's evidence of those conditions that have informed and supported us along our way. So after the next slide, please, Val. Thanks. So after that first year as a full-time youth resiliency coordinator, we did some work in our division with respect to visioning. We had an extensive engagement process where we talked with our communities around a vision for our school division, and crafted a new vision that at the time our superintendent wanted it to be the vision for every one of our schools. So we had one vision in the school division, and we established an ultimate goal of student success and well-being. And that was really the beginning and the importance, the priority in terms of our division, thinking about student well-being in all aspects of our work. So Felicia's title changed from Youth Resiliency Coordinator to our Wellness Coordinator. And I'm going to turn it over to Felicia, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what that work looked like. Felicia.
Excellent. Thanks, Diane. So good morning, everyone. I'm Felicia Oakes, and I am really honored and privileged to be here today. I'm a Treaty 6 settler. And I see that there are some friends that I know from Northern Gateway on the line. So shout out to my starting school board. When I moved up here from Canada, I thought I was moving to Whitehorse, Alberta. And I was, or Whitehorse, because I moved up here from the States. I thought I was moving to Whitehorse in the Yukon, but I was moving to White Court. So I had a little bit of the geography off, but I landed in the right community. So I just wanted to tell everyone that I came to a wonderful, wonderful province, and I'm so happy to be here talking about something that I'm really passionate about. When I started 9 years ago, and the school, the trustees and the superintendents, the executives, gave me a wonderful opportunity to start to look at, as you see in the guidebook, at a shared vision that would use a comprehensive approach. And the comprehensive approach that we chose that was getting lots and lots of national momentum was comprehensive school health. I don't know how, I think Val's doing the slides. Yeah. And so this model is recognized by the World Health Organization as an integrated approach to embedding health and education in partnership. And it focuses on the 4 pillars of policy, relationships and environments, community partnerships, and teaching and learning. And so whatever decisions you make, you look at how those decisions are integrated into those 4 areas. So you're with each of the areas that I work on with all of our schools, nutrition, physical literacy, mental health, and community partnerships, we think about how we can integrate those into teaching and learning. We think about how we use community partnerships to do that work well. We think about how we build relationships. We think about the physical and social environment. And then, of course, the area that we all love and get super excited about, policy development. That part leads me back to the board office, where Diane has been a wonderful and very, very amazing teacher to me over the past 6 years of how to do that work well. So this is the framework that we've used. Sorry, go ahead, please. And it was about 3 years ago that Diane said to me, you know, we need to be really, really intentional about our staff. Student wellness, you have one person in that classroom, and their outlook on life, what they're lifting, how they're seeing the world, that completely and totally impacts how those students are doing. And of course, we know that Brian and Jim have already talked about holistic and integrated. So if the school is a culture and it's an ecosystem, then the principal, the secretary, the custodial staff, the bus drivers, they are all very much a part of how you think of staff wellness and its implementation. But slowing down and Diane asking me to do that work well, it was really exciting because it got to, I finally had the opportunity to work a lot more with some of the community development history that I had. I've done quite a bit of work in community engagement and community development. And so when we started to work on staff wellness, we had to think about staff, all of the people who are related to our school board. And we had to think about how we would get a real transdisciplinary departmental approach, which is again a huge slowing down to go and do relationships. So I think that's why I put this slide up here, because when I think about doing this work well, and the reason that I like the name playbook is because it is so opposite of how education does so many things. Education as a system built like healthcare really likes direct implementation. They like strategic planning. They like 3-year processes with really clear-cut outcomes. And they like that to be called a program. They like to be able to test it, re-implement it, and know that it works. And when you're doing staff wellness, you're working with human-centered design. And human-centered design means that you're working with people who have a bit of a story. And this is where Diane's background in psychology is really complementary to a lot of the community development work I like to do, because it's a lot more important to think about culture building. And I know many of you, like me, are caught up in all this head health, heart health, gut health stuff. So I've been buying these kombuchas from the grocery store in the last year, and they're like $5. And I realized that was more than my Starbucks bill. So then I thought, I'm going to learn how to make kombucha, because I don't think I can kill myself. In fact, it's supposedly going to help me live longer. So when I think of staff wellness, I think it's good to have a lateral thinking move. Instead of thinking about buying a kombucha out of your grocery store, you want to think about making your own. And kombucha is putting all of that healthy culture back into our sterilized bodies, right? And our school systems have been, in many ways, because of multiple levels of changes, they've been sterilized of a lot of that humanness, a lot of the heart piece of how staff gather, how they share, how they create hospitality for one another. And that is the essence of staff wellness, is to get people back to a balanced state of gathering together so that the heavy work that they have to lift can be carried more easily. So you're adding that organic, really natural culture of bacteria and yeast back into a school. And I think that that's why I had to run this slide past Diane to make sure I wasn't too far off, because I knew I was presenting to all the superintendents. But I think it's a really beautiful metaphor to think about people as the SCOBY. And did you know that SCOBYs, they take the shape of whatever container they're put in? That's what's so cool about it. So people, we can go on to the next slide. Oh, this is Diane. So I'll finish up with the SCOBY metaphor. People are so organic, and the curriculum is that black and green tea, but the people inside of that building, and you all, if you work across and you go into each one of your schools, you know that what the felt sense of when you go into that school, whether or not it's well, is a sensory experience. When I go to schools as the wellness coordinator and I see on the front door, no skateboards, no hats, no gum, no students in this area after 4:30, I think, wow, welcome, not so much of welcome, right? So the experience of that felt sense begins right there at the front door. And those are the attributes of staff wellness that we slow down and reflect on right in the beginning. And we had to have the right team of people from across all of our schools who could reflect and go deeply enough to think about their school from being an outsider. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that, but Diane will go to the next part.
Yeah. So thanks, Felicia. That was a really good introduction to the work that you and I did in terms of our next step in the journey. And when we were thinking about staff, we were really thinking about staff influencing culture in our schools. And what did that mean? And so the focus of this work as we began kind of setting the groundwork and establishing it was really working with folks that came to the table, moving from head to heart. How can we bring that heart condition, the being condition, present into our schools, because we knew at the end of the day, our staff would benefit and our students would benefit. So to begin the process, we called together a group that was led by Felicia, our wellness coordinator. We invited staff wellness leads from every one of our schools to be present. We invited ASEBP health promotion facilitator to come. We connected with ATA local. And so they had, I think the president was one of the members, and I believe on occasion brought some other folks. We had our human resources director, and I myself, as a senior exec, participated in the group. We met on a monthly basis. Felicia led that work, and we did all kinds of activities that were really moving from head to heart. So it was fascinating. And at the end of the year, each one of the school leads did a presentation with respect to how they generalized and transferred that work into their school and what did that look like. And so that was kind of cool, and that was pretty exciting. So I'll let Felicia tell you a little bit more about that. Take it away, Felicia. Next slide.
So it's really about, I'm sure the playbook reiterates all of this, but it's really about developing culture, and culture eats strategy for breakfast. So I go back to how school boards that are really comfortable and they cling to strategic planning and they cling to that waterfall model, but staff wellness will not work if it's a top-down waterfall model. I don't believe that. And Paul Bourne, who is just retiring from the Tamarack Institute of Community Engagement, he really worked with me and coached me a lot around this idea that you want to shine your stars in the beginning. So you find people who actually are turned outwards towards taking on this work, not asking you questions about, you're really looking for positive, hope-filled people who are already kind of key bridges in their school community. And I did a really a deep conversation with each principal, and I said, give me someone who counts, who really counts on your team, who's trusted by the custodian, who's trusted by, I need a staff member who really, is a bridge and a builder in your school. And those are the ones who we took from each of our schools to kind of help with our planning across the division. And you see the little images here. This comes from a really small K-6 school. And we have these two cute. The principal called and said, Felicia, I know you only have release time for one person, but I can't send these teachers. They're like one organism. So I have to send them both to you. You can't have them just one. So they are from Forest Green School in Stony Plain, and they do the cutest little staff wellness things all throughout their school. Before COVID, they redecorated the staff room and they would run all these things, and they know when babies are being born, and they send out little messages, and they just derive so much energy off of one another. And they have a really creative, playful, they have a lot of buy-in from, the older grades and the younger grades. And the principal says that they proactively keep that staff so happy and so healthy that it just makes her job so much easier. So those were the kinds of staff members that we were looking for to help us create a divisional plan and to help us create some provisions that we could scale out to save the division money which is, I'm sure what Cass is talking about, is the huge return on investment if your number one asset, which is your staff, are well. Okay, next slide. We used this tool, which was given to us by the, okay. This is the teacher well-being tool. And this is one of the exercises which it sounds like we don't have time to do, but this would be an exercise out of this book that we used. So inside, we'd have everyone on that piece of paper that you have, you just draw a square box, you relax a little bit, and then you make a map of the school that you grew up in. So you think about your childhood school, and then you place a heart on the places in that building where you felt warmth or light, or there was, a cake baking. Then you flip it over and you do your own school, the school you're in now, or maybe it's your seat, where Diane is at district office. And then you do the same thing. And then you do a little bit of a reflection talk. That's out of this book. That's one of the exercises in the teacher well-being book. And we ran through all of the exercises with our staff wellness team once they were formed. And then we used that to create some planning documents about how do we actually go about changing culture in our schools and scaling the changes that we've made. Next slide. I think it's you, Diane. Me, Diane?
Yep.
This was the report that we developed for the trustees and the executives. Was after we did one whole year of just working through that book together as a team. You can see a lot of our principals and directors down there working with horses. I took them out and did a bunch of land-based learning, because you got to walk your talk around wellness. You can't just have them in the boardroom every day sitting in their heads. So we went out and I made them all stretch themselves. And I'm not a horse person. I'm from the city of Minneapolis, so this was even a stretch for me. And then we developed a report, and we circulated that report all around to all of our partners. And that led to our next iteration in our staff wellness plan. Go ahead.
And finally, most recently in this journey, we in this group had lots of conversation around how to scale up the work that's happened in the community or in this little group. And we've looked at monthly activities. Felicia's going to briefly talk to you about that. We're looking at an assessment tool so we can get some baseline data so that we know the things that we have now learned and that we're targeting are actually making a difference, and we can start to report on that and watch the growth. I'll give it back to you, Felicia, because I know we're
almost out of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Well done, Diane and Felicia. Some excellent thoughts for the group around culture and the establishment of culture and the importance of that connection, not only with your staff, but of course back through students. And it's really kind of the soft underbelly of all the work we do is around warmth and culture and trust and all of those kind of warm types of emotions, and certainly a great connection here back to the work that we do in our guide as well. I was kind of looking through the workplace wellness guide, and you guys have kind of nailed all sections of that guide. So well done and thank you. And once again, great presentation from colleagues, much appreciated. Any questions from the group? Okay.
There is
Great.
one.
Just before, oh, sorry.
There is one from Leslie to Diane. How was the Board of Trustees involved?
And I did answer that in the chat, Claudine. So in our first year, when we were kind of feeling our way and breaking ground, I identified the stakeholders that were there. And then when we had a report to give, we got the trustees very involved. And so they were more involved after that report was done.
Thank you, Diane. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Diane. Any other questions?
I have one.
Okay.
How often do you bring your wellness leads together in a year?
We used the AESBP, the Dimensions of Wellness book that they sent to us. We took each of those dimensions of wellness and then broke it up into one session a month. And we looked at each of the dimensions of wellness and did what kind of Cass is doing now, where we brought in an actual school from the field who could talk about it. We've really tried to use our own internal people to continually share with us what they're doing well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Felicia or Diane, do you wish to share anything about the series that you're offering, or is that what it was about, to have schools share what they're doing in terms of this slide?
Yeah, Felicia, talk about this slide, because this was really cool.
We created when the pandemic hit, we created this staff wellness position, because all those things that are internal to your division that people haven't slowed down to think about, like their mental health plans, their counseling plans, their benefits, changes in COVID pandemic stuff. We needed a staff wellness person this year. So this was a group that we created just with the pandemic, was a staff wellness team, and most of the people were already working with us as that staff wellness lead. But then they met with us and we talked about everything that was on their mind and just developed a process model where people could really, really feel like they trusted what was happening in their school and they trusted what was happening at division office.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we will move on now to Wilco Timonson and Amber Dara from Horizon School Division. Wilco.
Perfect. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so certainly we're privileged to be able to kind of share our story here this morning, and you know, this thing called a pandemic has certainly brought to light the notion of wellness. And you know, for many of us, we were very much focused on that idea of, you know, academic performance and accountability and academic results. And you know, as we moved into this pandemic piece, we're kind of almost that metaphor of, you know, building the plane while you're flying it has really come forward in terms of this notion. You know, for us, we've certainly been able to leverage some of the work we did before the pandemic, because wellness was already on our radar, and you know, we were able to use and build that direction as we move forward through these last couple of years. Next slide, please. And so you know, our story will kind of talk about, we'll use those same 5 arms of the CAS Wellness Framework, and I'm just going to speak a little bit about vision. You know, and that old adage of you can't be doing it wrong if no one knows what you're doing no longer flies. You know, we're in a world now where people want to know things. They want transparency. They want accountability. They want to be involved in dialogue. And so we really focused on the notion of vision and sharing that vision and rebuilding what our vision in our division was. And we leveraged the work around the assurance model to do some of that. So next slide, please. So really, as we started that work around wellness, we were already looking at it from a visioning perspective. And you know, through that assurance work, even in the last year, we kind of did a fair amount of reaching out to our stakeholders, our parents, our school council members, staff, you know, all staff, and even our students, to talk about what's important and where do we see ourselves moving forward. And so our vision is really around building knowledge and skills that contribute to that, you know, create contributing citizens, and it's about lifelong learning. And you know, our vision, as we revisited that, is really around engaging. So we achieve our vision by engaging learners. And so, you know, this last number of years, we have a lot of conversations with individuals on an ongoing basis around the notion that it's not just engaging people, but what are they actually engaged in? Are they doing the right work? And are they doing the right lifting? You know, it's that notion where people can spend a lot of time making their way through the jungle, but if they never actually stop to get above the trees to see if they're going in the right direction, all that work may be for nothing. And so we sometimes it's about stopping to reflect on what you're doing and are you doing the right thing to allow you to move forward on your priorities. You know, the that revisioning process for us also really tied into the new leadership and teaching quality standard. And we've really focused a lot on that first competency. You know, it's the one that leverages everything for being able to move things forward. And that's that notion of relationships. You know, the work that even the province has done around the desire to create welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe learning environments, in our minds, that even ties into wellness. And so it's leveraging the work and the conversations and the messaging that you've done previously, and then walking that talk. You know, it's the, when we talk about contributing citizens, when we talk about people who are able to contribute and give back to society, it really is about, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to help others. So next slide, please. You know, our work previously in the division, I would say, was so focused on the academic side of things that even in our office, you know, we didn't actually know each other in many ways. You know, those conversations around who are you as a person, you know, what are you doing on the weekends? Often people were scared to talk about what they were doing because it made it almost seem like you weren't actually doing work. And so I'm just going to share, you know, a 30-second story here where my wife and I had an opportunity to go to Peru a couple of years ago, again, pre-shutdown, and we ended up taking our mountain bikes, and it was really a mountain bike adventure, and got a chance to see Machu Picchu, and had a chance to hire some local riders who were pretty outstanding. And they took us up to about 19,000 feet. So close to the same level as the base camp of Mount Everest. And then we did this 19,000 foot descent on our mountain bikes back down to the ocean. And, you know, the elevation there was such that the air is pretty darn thin. You know, normally after 10,000 feet, you can feel the air getting thinner. And a friend of ours was so focused on helping everybody else get ready, but she wasn't really looking after herself. And she was having trouble breathing. Her heart rate couldn't drop below 160. And, you know, this Peruvian gentleman that we had kind of hired to take us pulls out an oxygen mask, and he says, you know, you need to look after yourself. And all of a sudden, before you know it, we're in the middle of nowhere, high up on a mountain, and he's giving her oxygen. And, you know, if you think back, Greg Wells was a keynote for a CAS conference, and he talked about the oxygen metaphor, that you really need to look after yourself. And that those stories that you can share leverage those learning abilities to leverage and move things forward. So next slide, please. And so from our perspective, we were on that social emotional learning journey with positive behavior focus and well-being. And what we've done as well is we've used the notion of COVID, and which is a huge challenge for all of us. And we've really leveraged that to redirect our focus on resiliency and wellness. You know, Felicity talked about this notion that it's about people and it's about stories, and that is complex. And it really is, you know, education is a complex system. It's not necessarily complicated, because complicated you can take apart and look at individual pieces. You know, we can do one strategy and it's not going to work for everybody. And so our focus really was around redundancy and diversity. Lots of people doing lots of different things to make sure we target everybody. And then Amber is just going to talk a little bit here about the roles and responsibilities of those different people and how we move that work forward from a systemic professional learning point of view.
Thanks, Wilco, and good morning, everyone. It's nice to see in this group faces of those of you I know from different places and different relationships. So it's really neat to overlap in this area as we talk about something that obviously is near and dear to all of our hearts. So I'm just going to unpack, you know, step off of that vision and direction that we set and talk about roles and responsibilities and the professional learning approaches that we've taken in Horizon. And I can't do that without a call out to Robbie Charlebois, is also here in the group. Robbie's been involved with this CAS workplace wellness work all along as assistant superintendent. And as I break out the roles, her area of responsibility is human resources. And secondly, Angela Miller is our clinical team lead, again, an integral team member as we all move this work forward together. So if you could advance for me, this model is not about the head, it's about the people, and trying to get our head around all the different roles and responsibilities. As Wilco and I were working on this, there was a point where I just had to stand up at the whiteboard and map it all out to address all of these pieces, because like I said, there are so many. And what we've really aimed to do with that vision piece in place is to keep everything, to keep the threads of wellness woven throughout the organization, so everyone has a role to play. So for us, it started a few years ago with wellness fund projects that helped us get that comprehensive school health model established within schools, as Felicia mentioned. And now it is woven throughout all roles in the division, really looking to make this a part of our culture and who we are, not only just part of what we do. So a couple years ago, and I'll break down these roles, but a couple years ago, due to budget redesign, we really had to streamline our committee work and use of release time. And so we had school health champions, and we're not able to continue that role. So again, this is all organic. It's happening as part of our work across the continuum here. And of course, our Alberta Health Services health promotion coordinators each year have always played a role through all of this. For us, we have wellness coaches who are part of our family school liaison program, and they are the ones right in at the grassroots working on social and emotional learning programming, that universal programming for all students, engaging with teachers and helping support teachers with implementation of common language strategy and supports for our students. That extends to staff and to parents as well. I'm working from the bottom up. The FSLP team overall also includes child and youth care workers and our family school liaison counselors. And so as part of that work, again, it's just ongoing, it's woven throughout. So, and when these slides are shared, you'll be able to click here and see on our website, we have a weekly wellness update. And I know I actually subscribe to some other teachers' newsletters and things, and I see they take these things and they pass them on to their families. And there was a point where I said to Angela, like, is this, it started last spring as a result of COVID. And I said, are you going to continue it? And we looked at the stats and the hundreds of hits this is getting every week. And it just blew my mind. So this has developed a following, not only of families in our community, but our staff and others. And so this allowed us to continue the conversation all the way through. As well as this year, we are running an evening parent series, and including, topics of self-harm, LGBTQ, things that in our community can be quite sensitive. But because we've forced this norm, these are now conversations we can have. We've engaged school leaders all along the way through our administrators committee meetings and professional learning activities. There was a point where Angela kind of set everybody down and said, okay, are you taking care of yourself, and how do you know? Here are things to do. These are reminders of strategies that you can make a part of your daily life, including having a partner who you just do a regular check-in with at least once a month, and hopefully more. It was randomly drawn, and it just broadened that network of accountability to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and each other. And then I'll talk about professional learning and that ongoing cycle, but sometimes we just say, okay, remember, we've got this. Here's all the things we've done. Here are all the tools in our toolkit. Nope, don't forget, because sometimes we keep moving on, and we forget to really celebrate and recognize everything that is at our fingertips. And so that's part of what we do, is just sometimes saying, as a reminder, we've done all this already. And so we just need to circle back and continue. Within HR, really focusing on staff wellness, from, again, the simple things like promoting the employee and family assistance program, Homewood Health, and giving our principals time to pour through those incredible resources, online access immediately available, that if you know it's there, you can then support a staff member by saying, oh, here, let's turn and look at this, because here's a tool that can help you with that specific concern that you're facing right now. And just the communication, clarity and simplicity. You're dealing with this situation, here's the leave that goes along with this. In COVID times and pandemic quarantines and everything else, there's a multitude of absence hoopla to navigate, and Robbie's done a great job of just making that as clear and simple as possible. And then finally, as a senior leadership team, like Wicko said, walking the talk, making this part of, showing our own vulnerability, being human, talking about, making it, again, the norm that you're not working all night or working all weekend. And if we do, we don't tell anyone, right? We take care of our stuff, but we do it privately and promote that norm of rest, rejuvenation, and the importance of that. So not having communication, no email, evenings and weekends, as so many divisions have now adopted. Just acknowledging, making it a part of every message. We've got this, we're here for each other, we're going to work through this together. That's again part of the culture that we feel is making a difference. And speaking of the tools that are so easily accessible, again, Felicia mentioned this one, the Dimensions of Wellness Guide, and the actual guide from ASCBP is hyperlinked here. But attending to all of these aspects, we introduced this a couple of years ago when we had Joyce Sunada keynote our first day back to school for staff, and talked about, and this allows an entry point for every employee, even those who are uncomfortable talking about their own mental health and personal concerns. Financial wellness is a little more socially, benign to talk about. And so this allows everybody to find a way to enter the conversation. And the next slide is a map of what we've done from a professional learning point of view. And within our division, whenever we are talking about professional learning, we're always aiming to stretch out, to make this part of a learning plan or a learning cycle. And so it's not just a one-time exposure to an idea, we're always aiming to build and draw connections from one learning activity to the next, just like we do with our students. And so examples here include like I said, Joyce's opening keynote in 2018. And we've tried to do some different things, again, to stretch that out. Even when we have an opening keynote, which we do when we want to inspire, unite, introduce a topic or some content. Joyce recorded an introduction that we sent out the middle of August. You're coming back, enjoy these last couple weeks. You're going to come back with your vessels filled. We're going to help you maintain that all year long. She had a keynote on that opening day. And then we followed up with a recording later on, just before Thanksgiving, saying, hey, you set some goals. Are you keeping them up? Are you on the right track? So circling back, reinforcing. And Greg Wells' talk, as many of you have had the chance to hear him, I heard him first at the Rules Symposium, and it was just the perfect add-on to the conversations we were having. Continuing around the circle, it's just being explicit and naming how some of our other activities are part of this united approach or integrated approach. So something as simple as 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, as we've had individual school staff trained and employee groups have come together for that training. It's all part of those coping skills, and that wellness approach. Going way back, we've been involved with Dr. Stanley Kuchar's work originally. CBE was really involved with this to start, and again, now it's trickled out. The Go To Educator program in mental health literacy, very much aimed at removing stigma, building that sense and understanding of what we're talking about when we do have to address mental illness or mental health disorders. Continuing the theme of wellness for the new year, that was when we had at-home learning that first week in January, we stuck in 2 sessions that week back. One was a required activity for all Horizon staff, and it was a Happy New Year, welcome back. Here, where are you headed? How are you approaching your wellness at this time? And then the second 2 were optional, and we had a number of staff who wanted to continue that conversation as part of the approach. So we used Franklin Covey content to reinforce. And then I lumped in one hexagon here all of our workshops and webinars across all of our professional learning days. We for all staff, for teachers only, where it engages content relevant to classroom instruction. So that's just a continuing approach. And I would say that, this work is mapped out over the last 7 years or so. And 15 years ago, I would have said, if there was one change I could make in the world, it would be to remove the stigma around addressing each of our own mental health and wellness. And I think this has brought it to the forefront. And one of the beautiful silver linings of COVID is it cracked this conversation wide open. And we all are now clearly, explicitly addressing how we're taking care of ourselves and how we're taking care of one another. And so we're just going to keep cycling back and reinforcing these points. So I think that's it for me. I had to throw in pictures because Wilco had pictures. So the things that make me happy, we had the University of Lethbridge was doing a wellness series on Twitter. And so they asked different community members to highlight what they're doing to stay well. And so mine was playing with my dog in the park, and nice. All those little things that all add up. Thanks.
Thank you, Amber. And Wilco, I love the connection back to system leaders and your own wellness. So the oxygen maps, it's a great visual for sure. And yes, there's vision and standards and assurance, but you need to be well to do your work. So I love that connection. And Amber, walking the talk, we heard Felicia say top down doesn't work, and man, do we all get that as we move forward. But the top guys, top folks do need to walk the talk for sure. And so that connect, and certainly your work nails our comprehensive and integrative section of our God, just so many things going on there with all levels of employees in your organization. And of course, in the end, that's all designed to benefit students. So well done and thank you. And I was thinking as these sessions went along this morning that, man, I would love to be a teacher in Parkland and in Horizon. Very, very cool things for staff there. So thank you very much. Any questions for Wilco or Amber? Okay,
I have a
great.
question.
Oh, yes, Felicia. Sorry.
I love that visual of all the roles and responsibilities and how it was set up. I want to know the process on how you came to determine those roles and responsibilities. Did you, was there a process where you put it out to, I guess, the division, say, what are you expecting? How can these roles serve your wellness, and how can you support the wellness? Or how, I want to know the process on how that was. And I know it's fluid, but how was that started?
are you referring to the head and those? I think so. Some of those pieces are, I think it in part it comes from just working as a team on everything, and not being siloed in our work. So if I'm doing something, with teacher professional learning, and Angela's team is doing something, with a specific social emotional learning initiative, we're always updating and sharing everything that's going on the landscape together. So I would say it was more taking an inventory and continuing to shepherd the work in that direction than it was at that, there wasn't a planning day where we sat down and said, okay, how are we going to do this? So what I illustrated in that slide was more an accounting of all the places it's happening, and where we find that we're missing a gap, we fill it by the fluid nature of our team. So
Yeah,
sorry, that's not the most strategic response, but that's how I was thinking of it.
Yeah, part of the issue is, as well, I would say, is that often senior leadership can get into their own silos, where inclusive ed does their thing, and HR does their thing, and counseling does their thing, and curriculum does their thing. And so, and finance does theirs, right? And sometimes all those tentacles of the octopus forget about the body. And so even from our perspective, as a senior leadership team, we all come together every week, and we sit down and we talk about what is the work, what are the big rocks that we're focusing on, and how can we make connections to each other's work to leverage and move that work forward. So from a cognitive conversation, although it's not necessarily a really strategic plan about here's the goal, what are we all going to do, it's more around the notion of what are you working on and how do we leverage that work together to move it forward.
Thank you, Wilco. Any other questions? Okay, so Claudine has established 10 breakout groups for us, and we'll move to those breakout groups. Val, anything to add before we go into breakouts?
Just, Jim, do you want to refer back to sorry, my slide went the wrong way. Refer back, whoops, wrong way, sorry about that. Refer back to the playbook. And this webinar is addressing these components of the playbook, and the playbook has lots of fantastic resources that school authorities have identified to address some of the conversations similar to what these presentations have done. And Jim, do you want to talk about this, or would you like me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, Val.
The idea of this modified historical scan, the historical scan process was brought up by Shar at the first workshop, and we modified it a little bit. I really appreciate how both Parkland and Horizon talked about it's not just about all the things we're doing, but how they're interrelated and interdependent with one another because of the overarching view of the district in terms of wellness. I really appreciate how both school authorities talked about the culture. So this historical scan is kind of diverting backwards a little bit to say, what are you doing? What have you done? And to check off which part of the wellness dimensions you're addressing. And thanks, Amber, for the visual that you shared. There's obviously more dimensions of wellness in the implementation guide. These are the ones that have been identified, so include as many, and who the program is affecting. And the concept with the second and third columns is that the idea of a comprehensive and integrated program, it comes together when you look at all the things that you've done and kind of cross-reference. Is it addressing all the dimensions of wellness and all the folks? So the concept with the breakout room is to pull out that worksheet that Claudine sent out before. And if you're in a room with your own colleagues from your school authority, to do a little bit of that historical scan and see where there might be gaps or strengths. The last column is kind of future thinking in terms of what results will you accept that there is impact occurring, but really the activity is the first three columns. And if you're in a room with folks from other school authorities, to simply do some sharing. What are programs, activities, practices that you are taking on, and how do they interact? Jim, is that back to you?
We have drawn straws, and we've picked a few folks that we'd like to hear from based on the breakout sessions that you just had. And we'd like to have somebody from Clearview, please give us some feedback on their breakout session. Clearview.
Well, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be able to do this, because it's been kind of crazy with COVID. So we don't always get to have those great conversations. So we appreciated the 15 minutes. And I have an amazing team. So I just really feel well supported by those folks. And we just talked about the things that we were doing, and excited that we're sort of on the same path as some of the other school districts that we had the opportunity to hear from today. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'm going to sign out.
Excellent. Thanks for that. And next, St. Paul, please.
I'm going to guess that my team would like me to speak on behalf of. So we had a conversation about the culture building, and that concept of the culture building, and the kabuka, whatever that's called, and really thought that that's really true, the culture building. And we thought that we have examples of wellness in many places in our division, and perhaps they're not tied together in a comprehensive way, but you know, as culture builds, they'll come together. We had a little discussion on the no communication on evenings and weekends. Social media, and I'm getting a buzz. My friends are texting me from my seat. Does they have any other ideas? No, they're just saying thanks. We talked about use of social media and kind of some of the things that could be done there. And one of the things that we're thinking is going to be seeing next year working in our division is just having more regular conversations as they relate to any of the work in our education plan, including wellness being one of our goals. And so we're kind of looking forward to see where those, you know, they talk about organic conversations, where they'll go.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. And how about breakout room 10? And Brett Cooper is in that room. I see. Brett, would you like to respond on behalf of breakout room 10?
Sure. It was a great conversation. Like was already said, it was nice. Sorry, my video, I'm at home. My internet is very bad here. So anyhow, the conversation was great. Good to talk to folks. And an interesting, I guess, aha moment was everyone's doing what they need to do in their own division. The ideas and what works in one division doesn't necessarily automatically transfer over to your division. You do what's necessary. The sharing and the ideas are very helpful, and we appreciate the opportunity to dialogue with other divisions around what they're doing, the successes they're having, and some of the challenges. So we appreciated the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. And it's our hope that the breakout sessions and together with the presentations in each of these webinars give you a chance to get going on your own workplace wellness planning, or continue with your workplace wellness planning. I mean, that's the goal of these sessions, and certainly it sounds like that is happening throughout our breakout rooms. So well done on that one. Brian, did you want to comment on the flower?
Yes, thanks, Jim. First of all, thanks again to both school divisions for very inspiring messages today and very helpful graphics. Thank you. I just wanted to quickly speak to dimensions And I know ASCVP, the Alberta Teachers Associations, and others have a fairly comprehensive dimension graphics and suggestions. In our work, we made the difficult decision to go back to the original 3 World Health Organization dimensions. And we felt that if we included all 8 in the playbook and in the guide, that people might find that, you know, they kind of need to get started on all 8, and that might be a bit overwhelming. So we went back to those 3 with lots of reminders that, as Brett has so clearly indicated today, context is everything. And if in a school authority, there was a decision that, for example, financial, you know, there was lots of requests for support around financial well-being, well, then pick that up and include it. So that's the rationale for seeing something a little bit different in our documents. And as well, just a reminder of the playbook, again, kind of building on what Brett said, there's way more in the playbook than we would ever think that anybody would apply in their own school authority. So we've really tried to include a wide variety of potential strategies across all 5 conditions that people could select from. So we certainly want to remind you of that as well. Like there's just way too much there for anyone to reasonably expect to apply, even probably over a number of years. So thanks for that opportunity, Jim. Just wanted to have that quick explanation from Lynn.
Great, thanks, Brian. Yeah, and just a comment on the presentation today and our webinar today. Many thanks to Val and Claudine. I mean, great work as always, and really appreciate your support and your leadership on these webinars. So just a quick slide here to reference the workplace wellness resource section in the CAS website. There will be learning guides established as a result of our work today and through all of our webinars. And so that will be available on the workplace wellness page, along with our guide, of course, and the playbook, and learning guides from our fall session, and so on. So lots of resources and information on the CAS website, as well as, of course, the Padlet that comes with our work. And Brian's done a great job of developing many resources in that Padlet. So just letting you know that that's available. And so that is the wrap-up slide, and we'll just talk quickly about May 25th. That's the 3rd and final webinar in this series, and so we look forward to your participation on May 25th as well. And I mean, we were probably about 40 people today, so that's certainly a good number of folks that are focusing on workplace wellness, and certainly timely and getting ready for a new school year when wellness will certainly be a priority for many school authorities because of the wind down, hopefully, of the pandemic. All right, thank you. Any final comments, Brian?
No, Jim. Thanks for your attendance, everyone. We really appreciate it. Best wishes moving forward.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.